The greatest Gundam model kit of all time. Not really the easiest thing to pin down, is it? Most people have different kind of paradigms to what make up a good or great or the best model kit. There are some kits out there that stand head and shoulders above everything else when it comes to the build, like the perfect grade Unleashed. Quite literally. But even amongst some of the smaller grades like high grade, there are some heavy hitters that just break the mold with an incredibly satisfying detailed build, a model kit that in the end is just sheer perfection, and some cool accessories inside of the box to just round out the entire product. Now back in 2018, there was one of these kits that absolutely shook the Gundam model kit world, and that was the high grade Moon Gundam. At that point, unanimously, the greatest Gundam model kit pretty much, according to everybody, including me. It approached real grade when it came to detail. It had an almost full inner frame, especially in the arms and legs. The color separation was very nice, including a two-tone white, which was something we'd only previously seen in super high-end kits like Real Grades and the Master Grade 3.0. It was the greatest high-grade Gundam kit of all time. But how about now, 7 years later in 2025, does it still hold up as the best of the best against modern high grades? Well, today, we're gonna find out. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the high-grade Moon Gundam. Not this high-grade Moon Gundam, by the way, but I will be talking about this one quite a bit, comparing it to some modern-day high grades. The version of this kit I'm going to be taking a look at today is the high-grade The Gundam Base Limited Vargil with Gundam Head and Psycho Plate, aka it is a purple Moon Gundam. 100%, it's just a color variation. As you can see, this is a Gundam Base exclusive, it says it right in the box, so if you can't get yourself to a Gundam Base somewhere, sometime, then you can get yours exactly where I got mine, and that is through those fantastic people over at Bai. You'll always find one on there, and the link is down there in the description. So firstly, jumping on into the build, and this is quite the big old box, and there's a little bit of a reason for that. On popping it open, we've got a ton of bags of runners, and when it does come to runners, we've got 22 runners. That is insane for a high grade. Now, there is a reason for that. Now, we do have a action base included in the box as well, which is always extremely nice. But when it does come to the plastic in here, there is one odd thing. Whipping out the manuals, as you can see, we got the regular Moon Gundam manual, because this is the regular Moon Gundam, just color swapped, and we have a little bit of a pamphlet in here too, which kind of shows how to build this one. And the thing that's weird about this is we've got color variants for a lot of the runners in here. So we've got two of some of the runners. For example, this one we've got a red and a black, we've got black and a purple here, which will mean it's going to get a little bit confusing when it comes to the build, because as you can see, you have to pay attention to this pamphlet for only certain aspects of the manual that tell you what colors you use where. But you can always use a picture on the front as a little bit of a, well, something to go by, a reference even. But as of right now, which is, I'm talking in real time as opposed to voicing over, I've got a leg and an arm built so far. And the kind of issues with the colors inside the manual isn't as big a deal as I thought it would be. I've built some of these kits that I've been building away, forgot to check the reference, and then ended up with colors where they shouldn't be. There isn't really anything too mixed up in this that you'd kind of miss out on. But yeah, let's blast on through the rest of the build and see what we got in here. When it comes to the build of the leg on the Moon Gundam, this might be the most impressive aspect about the mobile suit. The foot itself is relatively simple, just pops together just like so. You don't end up with any kind of bend at the toe or anything like that, which is a little bit on the sad side. Building up the leg, however, is incredibly unique. A lot of moving parts inside, especially in the knee, so there's a lot of moving elements to it. And when you've got the frame complete, it looks like this. Bend the knee, you get all this stuff moving, which will separate the armor later. And this is a full inner frame all the way up to the hip. It's just the hip part isn't on it just yet. Then you start armoring up the armor. Some of these have some moving flap segments on the side, around back. We've got some nice black to mix up the purple. And when it is all popped together, this is it. Again, great bend at the knee, great separating armor, beautiful leg, and there's the pair of them together. Up to the waist now, and we've got a C-clip waist joint. So this attaches in just like so, and attaches in as far as I remember. This when it moves up is for the extended ab crunch. A simple dropping mechanism for the hips, so they just pop on in like so, so they just arc down and up slightly. A super mega premium butt flap. I love it when skirt armor falls out of my hands, apparently. When it has a layered aspect, like this has gray underneath, which makes it look a lot more technical and armored that way, and it comes through to the other side, up here and down here. That's nice. The side skirts are armored underneath as well, but the front skirts aren't, and there we go. One waist unit complete. Alright, so this little amendment or addendum pamphlet is absolute shit. So far, it's showed me A whole bunch of crap here that I didn't need to know because there is no double colors for these. There is no potential real fuck up here at all. But when it comes to these two guys right here, which you could potentially mess up, which is the piping for around the waist as well as the waist section, there's, you know, is it a black waist with red piping? Is it a red waist with black piping? Is it just solid of both? The answer is it's black. You can tell by looking at the picture, of course, but why the hell even have this? This is so pointless. As for the build-up of the torso anyway, there's the cross-section of the waist. This is going to be your little kind of dropping mechanism for the bottom of the ab crunch. Upper torso then builds on into that. Some cool shoulder designs, the cup for the actual shoulder, and I will mention this is a polycap-free build. Rotate round into this piece of armor like so, and that just mounts on into the back like that. So that is a nice design. So up and down and side to side. A high-grade kit with a joint in its neck. That's fancy. That attaches into sort of collar section and then attaches down, and there it is complete. So relatively simple, but the design of the joints in here are very, very nice. Moving on to the arm, there's a cross section through the shoulder, so we've got where the arm attaches, an armor flap, and this nice bit of color separation. When the parts are attached together, it does attach on via here, which does limit things a little bit, having the shoulder locked into the arm, or should I say the arm locked into the shoulder. There's pretty much the inner frame of the arm, so we do have a 2-point bend at the elbow. As for the final assembly of the arm, it's just the arm onto the shoulder, and the hand onto the arm, and we do have some widespread hands in here, which is always a nice touch. So next up in here, we've got the head. Now this is all the good stuff we would have seen on the standard version, of course. That is fully color separated eyes. They are missing a little bit of black around the outside to kind of define the eye from just the part itself, but it's still impressive for the date this kit was designed. Pop on the muzzle, attach on the rest of the parts, and this right here is what the head looks like finished. Now I did pan line around the eyes to make sure that it's just the actual eyes you see, not the kind of just remnant green around them, and I pan lined the muzzle a little bit because that's a little hard to do once you've got a kit complete. But yeah, definitely a Titan's remnant looking mobile suit right here. Next up is the Psycho plates. This you have to go full production line mode for. It takes quite a little bit of building. Each one has 2 moving parts inside of it. It is a little disappointing that in here it's just a silver as opposed to that nice jelly red Psycho frame look we had with the standard Moon Gundam, but still, it's pretty cool. And this right here is what it looks like complete. So just for the sake of comparison, there is the OG version. I really just love the clear red on the underside, but the metallic silver is cool too. I'd recommend painting that if you're gonna keep this kit the way that it's gonna be, because silver paint always looks better than silver plastic. There are some little decals in here as well included. These look pretty cool, so I'm gonna stick them on. So final assembly time, and it was really nice to revisit what was, up until a point, the greatest high grade of all time. Still, it could be, honestly. There are some aspects that are phenomenal about it, like the various kind of layered aspects to the under armor like that, the design of the legs and the way the knees bend and separate the armor. It's still a phenomenal kit in 2025. No polycaps. The torso is a little bit on the rigid side, doesn't really do a whole lot, has nothing really too fancy about it, but still looking nice. The shoulders are something I've never, well, really cared for too much with this kit, mainly because they're mounted into they as being the arms, are mounted into the actual shoulders. This is always a very restrictive design when it does come to some Gundam model kits. Thankfully, there is a lot of extra movement up in the shoulder here, but overall still quite cool. Second arm on. Just gonna stick on the simple part of the backpack for now. So this does have your standard 2-point attachment back here as far as I know. I should probably test that out and see, because it is a 3-point on this particular backpack. Probably to deal with the amount of mass that will be around back. And the head here is in a completely different color, because this is the Varghil with the Gundam head before it was painted to look like a Gundam. Overall interesting, but definitely not as iconic as the Gundam colored one right here. Both awesome. And it, well, will always come down to your own perspective which version you like more, the darker one or the Gundam-y colored one. But this to me still the most iconic. Alright, so we're going to be jumping on into the review proper right now. And I've got the standard Moon Gundam and the Moon Gundam Varghil Gundam base combo thing, which is exactly the same kit, just in a different color scheme with some stickers. So now that I am nice and reacquainted with this particular kit right here from its runners up, it's time to actually talk about, is it still the greatest high grade kit of all time? Now in the back there, I've assembled a bit of a team. These are a whole bunch of kits that I feel can give the high grade Moon Gundam a run for its money are equal or even better. Now I do feel this is entirely an exhaustive list right here. There probably are some more, so if you can think of any off the top of your head, drop them down there in the comments as suggestions to anyone looking for the greatest high grades around. But anyway, let's get into aspect 1, aesthetics. So anyway, there's the high-grade Moon Gundam in all of its glory, and it hasn't aged a day. This came out in 2018, I think, and it can still put some 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 high grades to shame. Not all of them, but a damn sight of them. Overall, it just looks great. The angles are fantastic, the two-tone of white still looks really fancy, and I'm not sure if there is any more high grades with that. The color separation is off the charts, the tiny details are very nice too, and one of the things that I really do love about this particular kit is the layering of the grey coming up from underneath the armor. We've got that round on the butt flap, and that is a double thickness, beautiful butt flap. We've got it in the arms, we've got in the front of the legs, it is all over the place. The one thing that does kind of let me down a little bit about this kit is the head and the chest to some degree. The chest I do feel is a little bit lacking when it does come to detail and part separation to some degree, not a lot. And the head feels like it could be a little bit on the fancier side. The mold looks like it may be a little bit dated, but then again, that is just being picky. If there's anything I'd really kind of nitpick about this particular kit is that the, well, underside of the shoulders doesn't look so great. That can probably be about it. The chest also feels like it could be a little bit more realized. I don't even know what I mean myself by that, but there's just something a little bit lacking feeling about it compared to the absolute beauty in the legs and the arms on this kit. But yeah, you'd only be really picky looking for things to pick at on this particular kit. It's gorgeous. It's still perfect. It looks amazing. Pretty much fully color separated eyes, two tones of white. This thing has the works for a high grade. Anyway, getting it into the full 360-degree spin, there is the Varghese with the Gundam head beside it, aka the exact same kit just in purple, just so you can see what both of them look like from the exact same angle and pretty much the same lighting. They're the same kit, definitely. One thing that does disappoint me a little bit about the purple version is the fact that we don't have a two-tone purple. Of course, the head is in a kind of blue, which is just part of the lore of this particular kit. That's when the head has been replaced on instead of the Varghese head. So that's been pulled off another Gundam entirely. But yeah, the lack of two-tone in the purple is a little bit disappointing. It would have been nice to see the same sort of thing. However, some of the parts that are... However, on the flip side, you can say that the parts that were color separated into the two shades of white on the actual standard Moon Gundam are now in black on the Varghese, so it's kind of there, I guess. Also, the yellow hazard stripe stickers are a really cool touch. Alright, now it's time to start bringing in some competitors when it does come to the aesthetics. Now, some of these I'm going to bring in pretty much straight away to kind of disqualify them, mainly because they are premium Bandai and they may be a little bit harder to get, and to some people that might be a reason to kind of make them not as perfect a high grade as the Moon Gundam. So first off, reaching on back and grabbing this right here, this is the high grade D Gundam first. This is without a single doubt one absolutely impressive high-grade kit. It looks so good, it is beautiful, and the sad aspect is it is a premium Bandai exclusive. This is some absolutely phenomenal color separation. This has a kind of style of plastic that you don't see in standard high-grade releases. This is more akin to something like the Master Grade Gundam F90 than anything else. That means the colors pop in a more vivid way than your standard gunpla. It feels a little harder. I find it almost a little bit easier to work with, and it does feel a little bit more like classic gunpla, or should I even say alternate universe gunpla, where Bandai went down a different route that feels more akin to the Master Grade Mark II and stuff like that, as opposed to the way high grades actually are. It's hard to explain, but it does in the end feel like a completely different build and nets you one beautiful looking kit. However, the burning question here is it more aesthetically beautiful than the high-grade Moon Gundam? You'd almost say no because it doesn't have as much surface detail, but it is a more plain design. The simpler look does give it very nice surfaces, and when it comes to the actual molds, the molds are a little bit sharper than what we do see on the high-grade Moon. Zooming on into the face, and you can kind of see this aspect right there. The Moon is a little bit hard to kind of read when it does come to its face, and the mold isn't the most over-the-top amazing. However, what we're seeing on the D Gundam first is very crispy. However, again, we're not seeing crazy details like color-separated Vulcans or anything like that in there. And we definitely don't have color-separated eyes, so I guess it's a very nice high-grade kit, but maybe not as nice as the Moon. I guess that makes the D Gundam first 100% disqualified. The next one entering the fray, the new challenger approaching, is this right here. This is the high-grade Gundam Sirius. Once again, this right here is a premium Bandai exclusive. However, it is one incredibly great kit. Again, premium Bandai putting the premium Bandai for a change this year over and over again. This is a crazy kit. It's got two different forms, both of which look awesome. I personally prefer the stripped down version, so I'm going to swap it out to that. But this is the over-the-top Kaiju variant. It is a Kaiju Gundam. Swapping it out for the lighter armored version, it does look a little bit skeletal in comparison to the Moon Gundam. Again, very, very nice detail, great molding, absolutely premium feeling plastic, and overall a great kit. As nice as the Moon though? Maybe not. Side by side with the Moon, the Sirius right here does look very unfinished. Well, I guess it's the version. So quickly jumping back to the other version, this kit does have a lot of inner frame in its build too. It's a fantastic build. However, there are some elements like some polycaps in the build, and as you can see, those are not color separated eyes. They are just stickers on there. So it is a very nice kit, but definitely not Moon Gundam nice. So that does mean the Gundam Sirius disqualified. So the next new challenger next up in the running is the high-grade Gundam Nyan. This is a kit I built very, very recently, and this is one beautiful Witch from Mercury kit that sadly is premium Bandai. Well, it is from the manga, so it does kind of make sense. This is an absolute beast of a kit. You might think the Moon Gundam is normal Gundam sized, but it is not. As you can see, these are big, heavy hitters of high grades, which is always cool. When it does come to the Nyan right here, this is another phenomenal build. It's rock solid with a Witch from Mercury foundation. It builds up so nice. You've got nice core units, and in the end you get a big, massive, over-the-top, awesome Gundam kit. Is it as nice looking as the actual Moon Gundam? It is kind of hard to say, and it may depend on your own preferences. Without a single doubt, very, very beautiful. The color separation on here is stupendous. The metallic orange on here may be to your taste or not to your taste. Once again, this is a kit without really the need for stickers. There are stickers, those are in the shell unit sections there. That's a usual Witch from Mercury sort of thing, but they don't really look too stickery when the kit is complete. The head design on this kit is over the top awesome. We've got color separation in the vents, the Vulcans, even that tiny little bit of grey in the chin. It's got a lot nicer of a kind of sculpt. The mold is sharper than the Moon Gundam, and overall very nice. We've got fully color separated eyes, so that's even more color separated than we see on the Moon Gundam. So in my opinion, even though it is getting the kick for being premium Bandai, I would put this easily on the level of Moon Gundam, definitely. Both absolutely phenomenal kits. The Moon Gundam definitely wins out when it comes to the amount of accessories inside the box. This wins out when it comes to just overall strength of the build. Articulation wise, they're both very, very nice, but I think the Moon Gundam right here might be better. But this is definitely up there. I think it beats it on mold and beats it somewhat on looks. But it has to go anyway. Bye-bye. So the next challenger when it comes to best high grade of all time is the Mighty Strike Freedom. This is one hell of a kit right here. Absolutely beautiful. And this may have only gotten Platinum tier when it got reviewed, but that is essentially the same as Gundarium tier from the old days, because this was X-Platinum tier, so the new ranking system. It would have been Gundarium, definitely on the old. Whereas this kit has tons of panel lines and kind of greebles and all that sort of stuff, this kit has facets, aka little kind of angles like a gem that just catch the light. So in standard like this, it may look a little bit on the plain side, but get it under fancy, nice side lighting or something like that, and it will always look spectacular. Let's see what I can do right here. Just pull that away. Yeah, rid of that. When this gets lit from angles, it just really does catch the light so nicely. And all of those little kind of raised angular surfaces all over the place. The Moon Gundam itself, not quite the same. Still good, but a little bit on the kind of rounded, edged kind of design. I guess it is Xeon. Now, when it does come to the build on this particular kit right here, it's not as nice as the Moon Gundam. It builds up in an old kind of classic style. However, the white plastics on this are nice, and this does have some UV plastics in it too. The head mold here is very nice, but not that crazy nice. You're not getting any kind of nice color separation in Vulcans or anything like that. The eyes are stickers, sadly, and you might be wondering why I keep on mentioning the color separation in the eyes. It's because the Moon Gundam itself brought that into high grade, and it was a long time till we had it as a standard. Now it is kind of a standard sometimes, but in a kit like this, even though it's fairly new, doesn't have it. The Mighty Strike Freedom also has one hell of a sheet of stickers, so definitely not Moon Gundam tier. So the Moon Gundam may have been the high-grade king of greebles for a long, long time, as in all those little surface kind of raised parts and details that you can panel line, but it got completely outclassed by this right here, the high-grade Gundam EX. This is ridiculous when it comes to those sort of aspects. The greebling on this, all the various little kind of raised parts and armored parts and details is crazy, probably because it is from a CG anime. Also, this does have grey and white color separation, but it's grey and white color separation to the max. Like, you can really see it. Sometimes it's hard to tell that This upper knee section is a super pristine white, and the rest of the whites is a kind of light gray. But with this kit, you're never going to make that mistake. There is a lot going on, and it may get almost to the too busy point for some people. However, it is ridiculously cool looking. I love this. And the kind of subdued color palette of just white and that muted red, beautiful. So anyway, when it does come to the visuals, this is definitely packing in more surface detail all over the place, especially surface layering. All the parts are layered over each other, and when it does come to the build, this pretty much has a full inner frame running through its arms and legs too, and an even more detailed over the top one than we've seen in the Moon Gundam today. Overall, I think when it comes to looks and the build, the X is outclassing the Moon. Now the EX here kind of has similar issues to the Moon when it comes to the head mold. It all kind of looks a little bit melted together a bit. This may be a design aspect or issue as opposed to an actual molding issue, and we don't have color separated eyes here either. It's stickers on the eyes and the head cameras, so even though there's a lot of layered up detail and colors, we've got more in some aspects and less in others. So is it nicer or not than the Moon Gundam? I would say it is equal. Better in some aspects, not so good in other aspects. So this one is definitely staying in the matchup. Now when it comes to new Gundam kits, nothing's quite as new as G-Quax, and when it comes to G-Quax kits, I'm going to compare it to the G-Quax because it is such a unique over-the-top kit, but one I super recommend all the time is the Gelgoog back here. This has a special place in my heart. It's a great kit, it's fantastic, it's beautiful. It may not be Moon Gundam tier, but in my heart, it totally is. But yeah, you cannot compare the G-Quax to really anything at all. It does not build up as a standard Gundam, so there isn't a full inner frame in here. This is loads of unique parts just kind of tied and knotted together in a really unique style kind of way. So what you're seeing on the surface really is what makes up the Gundam itself. And there is so much going on in here, unique in every aspect, so much so that it puts it into an, again, almost alternate universe feeling gunpla. It's feeling like it's a completely different branch to high grade. It's just that different. And again, because it is so different, when you're popping them like this beside each other to kind of see which is better than the other, it's really hard to say because it's so different. Now it automatically loses a bit because it has a lot of stickers. The great thing about the Moon Gundam is you build it out of the box, a bit of panel lines on it, and it's perfect. Nothing else needs doing. This does need stickers all over the place to kind of finish off the design. I only used half of them, and it is color and accurate in some aspects, but the kind of technology in the design here just makes it so, again, it's different. Would I say it's equal? I don't know. I think maybe Bandai got a little too complex with it, honestly. The detail on the head is absolutely off the charts, undeniably so. I will mention the eyes are stickers, there's, well, no plastic parts underneath, and there is some color inaccuracies along its big old head. It's meant to have some grey aspects. But again, the amount they crammed into such a small kit, pretty damn good. So is the G-Quax better than the Moon Gundam when it comes to aesthetics? When it comes to color separation, well, without a doubt, it's crazy. It's a Technicolor crazy kit with so much going on. It still does require some stickers in the build, which is always a little bit disappointing. So again, it's, I would say, of the same tier, but for different reasons. So he's staying in the running. So the last two right here are coming as a set. That is the high-grade Ariel and the high-grade Calibarn, because two, well, in a way, they're kind of the same tier-ish kit. They're both absolutely phenomenal in their own sort of way, for different reasons depending on your tastes. My personal favorite would be the Calibarn right here, but the Ariel is definitely a close second. I'd say the same with the Rubris or the Elfrit as well. That's very nice, the pink one. And the reason I left these to last is because, to me, I feel like these have become the apex of high-grade kits, especially as a line as a whole. If you get anything pretty much from the Witch from Mercury, the Gun Node, Short Set, Daryl Balde, they're all fairly phenomenal. But these two right here are kind of like the main Gundams, so they kind of, you know, stand out the best, and I think you get the best prices when it does come to main Gundams. They're usually priced a little bit cheaper. So when it does come to the build of both of these kits, both of them have partial inner frames too, which means the build is probably on par, even though the overall kind of solid build on both of these feels better than the Moon. So the build experience is probably on par, but the overall finished build is better on these kits, I would say, than this. This has loosened up in some regards over time, whereas these are holding up very nicely. Now, the reason why I didn't pick one or the other over the other is because both are extremely good. Both do have stickers, which definitely puts them at a bit of a deficit versus the Moon Gundam, but that is down to the overall design. The mobile suits themselves don't have much on them. It's the escutcheon right here that does come with more stickers than anything else. We do have the pre-molded shell units, which look phenomenal and better than pretty much anything out there when it comes to high grades, and the color separation is pretty much 90% as well. It's a great kit out of box, And when you zoom into the head, you've got those fully color separated eyes, even more so than the Moon Gundam, and the mold is definitely a lot sharper. The little additional shell units definitely add a lot of extra oomph to it, and the color separated Vulcans in the head is just undeniable. So aesthetically, is the aerial beating out the Moon Gundam? Well, personally, I would say that it does. However, there are a couple of stickers which may work against it when it does come to the accessories to some degree, but I think definitely looks better. Pretty much everything I said goes the same for Calibarn right here. We've got all of those nice shell units all over the place, this time in a little bit of a rainbow kind of look, which doesn't pop as nicely as the red, but there is a red premium Bandai version of this available. We do have one over-the-top weapon, but I'm not talking about weapons right now. That does require some stickers, and the addition of stickers here and there may bother some people, like this right here. Again, the stickers are only from the accessories, but overall looking fantastic. And again, a solid build with great pen lines and overall look to it. Zooming on into the face, and again, an absolutely gorgeous high grade, color separated eyes right here. A pearlescent clear V-fin, which is an absolute first when it does come to Gundam kits. And again, whether this or the aerial is nicer is up to yourself. I prefer the overall clean white color scheme, but some might like the more traditional Gundam colors on their kit. Would I say this looks better than the Moon Gundam? I would say mold-wise, definitely, but we do lack some kind of cool things like the fact that this does have the grey underneath, giving it that kind of heft to some aspects. The build, definitely more sturdy, but still kind of hard to say. It depends on your own preferences. So when it does come to the accessories included inside the box, this right here is what we got with the Varghil I just built today. So essentially the exact same sort of layout as what we would have seen with the Moon Gundam. Again, it's just kind of a color difference sort of thing. I prefer the red again on the big moon unit psychoplate thing than what we get with the Varghil, but the stuff is exactly the same. I'll also mention that we do have these fist hands right here, but also included are a pair of just widespread hands, which I just leave on pretty much all of the time because they're very nice looking. So yeah, this is an all-encompassing set. Right here we've got the full usual Gundam loadout sans a shield, so I guess that's what this actually makes up for. That of course is the beam rifle, which is a scattergun, at least I think it's a scattergun, a pretty cool Heat Hawk style sword, 2 boomerangs, a bunch of adapters, and again, we've got 4 hands in total. Without a doubt, one hell of a layout. Also, we'll mention at this point, you've got a full stand in here, not some bullshit kind of nonsense stand. You've got a full action base, I think it's 4 stand in here, so that's a huge bonus. But anyway, when it does come to the challengers, first up is the high-grade G-Quacks. This is what we get inside the G-Quacks' box. So again, very nice. That sword, board, and beam rifle with some additional parts. So we have widespread hands, we've got a Heat Hawk. The beam rifle in here has some great color separation. The shield is unique. The beam sabers are unique too with really cool beams. And we do have an alternate head, so it is a very nice spread when it comes to accessories. So is the G-Quacks comparable to or better than the Moon Gundam? I wouldn't say better, but almost comparable. Close enough, but not quite. Doesn't have actual moving fold-out boomerangs. So next up then is the high-grade Gundam EX. So how does that compare when it comes to accessories? And not quite as good. It's sword, board, and beam rifle only. So that is 2 beam sabers, the shield, and the beam rifle. And if I remember correctly, there are some color inaccuracy issues. Also, the hands in here are white, which means they're not even compatible with sold separately hand kits that are in grey. So you are limited to what its hands will look like. So is the Gundam EX here comparable to or better than the Moon Gundam? Fuck no. Next up, we've got Venatus' finest. Actually, it's not its finest. Calibarn would be the finest, wouldn't it? Anyway, we've got this right here, the high-grade Gundam Aerial. So how does it compare? Here is the loadout. Again, sword, board, beam rifle, and a beam effect. The beams are normal. We've got a shield that splits up into a whole load of little bits, which is kind of cool. They attach onto the Gundam, which is very, very nice. Similar-ish to the actual Psycho plates on the Moon Gundam, and we do have a beam rifle with an add-on-able beam bit at the front. Does that make this better or equal to Moon Gundam? Accessories wise, definitely not. Up next in the firing line is Calibarn. Probably Venatus' finest. I don't know if it kills you when you're flying around in it, isn't. I guess it doesn't matter. Anyway, what we get in here is a little bit more than what we would have seen with the aerial. So we've got the sword, board, and beam rifle yet again. Sword is 2 beam sabers. Board is the same as scutcheon that splits up into parts, but you don't need stickers for on it, which is nice. And the beam rifle is a big old broom, which is off the charts cool. Does need a couple of stickers, but it is off the charts cool. And we do have some extra parts for the normal version, which is just black V-fin and blacked out chest. Besides that, we do have a bit of a stand in here, but it's one of those crappy runnerless stands that isn't really all that nice to look at or nice to use. But it keeps it off the ground, or from falling over. Is it as good as the Moon Gundam? I would say no, the Moon Gundam has such a good spread for a high grade. Alright, so finally on to the articulation. I'm going to have to go really quick because this is taking me a lot longer than I thought. I thought this would be kind of a fun little comparison and an excuse to build the Moon Gundam yet again, but it's actually taken me for ages. But anyway, usual pose on all of them, and that's how I'm going to test who articulates the best. Definitely not me. My words are leaving me at the moment. Just evaporating away, brain failing. That's some tight hips right there, Vargil Moon. So I'm just going to do all of these in real time and kind of just comment on it while going through it. If I do remember correctly, we do have a little bit of a limited ab crunch here. However, it is supplemented from this section down here. So overall, it still works out quite well. Feels nice. I will mention, oh, nice side bend. Ooh, and the shoulder's good too. Man, this is nice, nice, nice. I don't know what I was going to say there, by the way. The old neurons are giving up. Get out the way over there. Yeah, ooh, yeah, okay, that's nice. They're gonna, got a little bit of competition here. That knee is a work of pure poetry. It goes down so nicely. Yeah, oh, good. All right, next is Gundam EX, and I'm not taking its equipment off because I want to put it back where it was. Pretty much the way it was, which is kind of standing there. Isn't it funny making videos about Gundams and always kind of complain about articulation, this, articulation, that, and then standing them up on the shelf just in an actual, just regular old stand pose. Ugh. EX, that's pretty abysmal. That's not very nice. Yeah, okay. That's the best he can do. Not as dynamic. Slide them off into the back. Don't fall forward. Next in here, we've got the Gaikotsu. This thing is loose as ass. That's one thing I will say. A loose ass, I guess. See? So it is incredibly, incredibly complex, which, you know, when it comes to good old engineering, the more moving parts something has, and the most range of motion, or the more range of motion they have, the more delicate the thing tends to be, and not really as strong. However, it does have great articulation. Overall, very nice. Low down that launch, looking good. Next up then, it's Aerial, and I'm like, oh, how does Aerial compare? Okay, oh, very nice so far. Oh, I lost the, actually, all these kits are losing the back of their hands. Stop doing. All right, wow, the white on this is blowing the camera right out. It's pristine white on this kit. So this is one of those joints that Bandai uses sometimes, which is just a kind of split joint like that. They've had them since, I would say, back in the Iron-Blooded Orphans days, and they're a little bit of a pain in the old sphincter. Articulation at the ab crunch zone, a little bit on the not moving too well. There we go anyway. Put the escutcheon to use back there. All right, last up is the old Calibarn. Extremely, extremely nice. Definitely better than what we've seen over there in the Aerial. All right, the Gundam EX here, that's just not holding up. Visually might look up there with the Moon, but when it comes to accessories and articulation, hell no. So there we go, that is that for. There is definitely one that's just not pulling its weight as well because of a kind of awkward upper hip and ab crunch zone, and that is the Aerial. So that is getting the kick as not as good as the Moon Gundam. Still great, but its reliance on stickers, lack of accessories in comparison, and just kind of slightly awkward articulation means that one is definitely out of the fight. So there we go. Also, the G-Quacks here, absolutely fantastic kit, without a doubt. It has it beat on color separation and overall complexity. It does have some stickers in its build, and the accessories may not be quite as entertaining or as good. However, it's still a phenomenal kit. It's just slightly shy. So it does bring it down to these two. Moon Gundam versus Calibarn. Which is better? I would say they're almost comparable. The Calibarn definitely has the build quality. It feels rock solid, has some nice shiny elements that makes it really cool, like the V-fin and the chest. Stickers in the build may not be for everyone, but overall it's still a premium kit. This has some loose aspects to some degree. The head sculpt may not be as nice as some modern kits, and the shoulders can be a little bit awkward. However, overall, when it comes to all three aspects, including the articulation, accessories, and the looks, this is definitely close. This is quite the tie. I couldn't actually call it myself. I would say they're equal, but for different reasons. So these, to me, are the two best high grades out there, just for slightly different reasons, and depending on your own perspective and what you're looking for in a high grade kit, these are still phenomenal. Both of which, the best of the best. So yeah, that right there is it for the review, and if I was going to actually rank the Moon Gundam in 2025, what would I give it? It's definitely very hard. After a bit of thought, I've decided this is 100% X Platinum tier completely across the board, so it does everything fantastically, but everything consistently fantastically, but not into the extreme levels. Aesthetically, it's absolutely beautiful, but it is missing some color separation here and there. That is underneath the shoulders and a lot of the kind of details on the head, including some kind of green lining and some venting. A little bit to kind of detail up yourself, but it's not really all that bad. Articulation-wise, this is absolutely phenomenal. You get great poses out of it, but it is missing some extreme things like toe bends, any actual articulation in the torso whatsoever. But besides that, you're going to get the greatest poses out of it, and it is very dynamic overall. Accessories-wise, we've got a phenomenal set of accessories with a lot of options to them. Some of the aspects like the beam rifle is just plain, it's just 2 pieces. However, that's made up for by the absolutely cool collapsing and expanding beam boomerangs that store in the forearms, and the psycho plates can be used in a multitude of ways. Overall, fantastic. Lastly, then when it comes to the build here is really nice. It's nice to build up. We've got almost full inner frames in the arms and legs. The way the armor builds on is perfect. The torso again is a little bit on the dull-ish side. And one thing that really fucks me off with this kit is the C-clip waist joint. It always pops eventually. This is a kit that does loosen up a little bit, but a C-clip right on in there wasn't really the greatest idea. The bend forward is great, the method of doing so, not the greatest. Overall, extremely great kit, pretty much as perfect all round as a high grade can get right now, and still one of, if not the best, high grades around. Possibly tied with Calibarn. Might be better, depend on your own personal opinion. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure or even make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, this video right here and every single video I make would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches this video. And special thanks at the end of this video right here to those who support on the channel memberships as well as over on Patreon, including Caleb Engelhart, Joe, OG59061, Scotty Thomas, and Simon.